As Dick sat down beside her, he could feel the throb of the diesel motor. It seemed to carry the rhythm of adventure through the walls of the cabin, giving the feeling of the unknown. For a long time there was silence while Dolores held one of Dick's hands for protection.
Dick, we only have one cabin. I'm supposed to stay here with you, and I hardly know you. Morquell told me that I must stay here. There are no extra rooms.
I'm sorry, Dolores. We'll just have to put up with things as they are. We've got into this, and we'll have to see it through. After all, we are man and wife, and the people on board would think it strange if we didn't occupy the same room. There are 2 bunks, so I won't have to sleep on the floor. It will be a long trip, and we might as well enjoy it as much as possible. Days changed into weeks as the ship ploughed steadily south. They stopped at one port for a few hours to refuel, and there was little to see. The ship was slow, and it felt good to walk on land again, but no one spoke enough English to answer questions. It was the only time they sighted land until just before the end of the trip, when small islands began to slide by, some within a few 100 feet, others just visible in the distance. Morquell hadn't appeared on deck during the entire trip, but now he approached the rail. His face lighted up with an ethereal glow as he gazed across the blue water. He looked like a man who was sighting his home after many years of absence. Dick couldn't help but feel glad for him, while cold chills of misgiving crept up and down his own spine. Their voyage was ending at a far different place than he'd pictured in his mind, and quite the opposite of the description which Morquell had given of gigantic mechanical development. They were passing by small South Sea islands where mechanical equipment was out of the question. They hardly appeared habitable. When the captain approached Dick, Morquell joined the conversation.
"I'll give you the directions, Captain. Mr. Barrow is not feeling well, and I can do it for him. In about an hour we will reach the island, and I will point out the entrance to the harbour. It is well protected, and there is no need to worry about any storm while we unload."
Every inch of space in the ship was packed with supplies. There were crates of books as well as pieces of machinery. Considerable radio equipment included assembled sets as well as parts. There were rifles and even one small cannon. Several crates of chickens and turkeys joined the other things on the beach. Then, to the amazement of the party, a crate of pigs appeared. It required 3 days to empty the ship, and with each passing hour the little party grew more apprehensive. It seemed as if they'd been transferred to an island to start a new civilization, instead of a place where mechanical development was far advanced. Because Dick was the leader of the party, the others began to look at him with hatred. Morquell was almost forgotten. When the last piece of equipment was covered with heavy tarpaulins, they constructed a shelter against one side of the pile. It was almost dark when everything was finished, and the captain decided to wait until the next day to sail. Everyone was invited on board the Primrose for a farewell party. Dick was forced to call a meeting in the main cabin to forestall danger of the party deserting with the ship. Morquell had instructed him carefully. "Friends, we are facing a great adventure. I'm in no different position than you, except that as leader I'm responsible for whatever happens. I must take all blame for whatever comes, yet know that it will eventually work out as we expected. You all know that it is forbidden to talk about this trip or to surmise our destination. I can assure you that it is done for your benefit, and later you will appreciate the fact that you did not know the future. I can't say what the next few days will bring to all of us, but be assured that everything you have been promised will be fulfilled. At the moment it seems impossible that things can turn out as we expected, but they will. You must simply be patient, and do not lose faith in this great adventure." As Dick finished his speech, Morquell smiled, very satisfied. Dolores even smiled faintly, although it required effort to overcome her feeling of disaster. The following morning, everyone went ashore, and John McCarthy went around trying to aid Barrow in cheering up the party. He lied like a trooper whispering to everyone that he'd discovered something that satisfied him about the marvellous civilization they would reach before long. Word of this reached Morquil, and he hurriedly called Dick and John out of sound of the others. He appeared almost frightened, and the moment they were alone he spoke.
"What have you learned? I wanted you to know nothing, and it is better if you are ignorant. Whatever you learned is too much, and may upset the future."
John started to laugh, then seeing the expression of agony on the face of Morquil, he stopped short.
"Don't worry, I haven't learned anything. I simply tried to help Dick keep the people satisfied. They were getting so restless they needed something. In my hometown I was known as a famous liar, and thought my ability might come in handy."
Slowly the agony disappeared from Morquil's face.
"Some day you will understand how much you have done for me, John. You will never regret it."
The McCarthys remained jovial and tried to keep up the spirits of the others as the days of loneliness passed. Philip Jones and his wife were quiet and waited patiently. Andrew and Emma Smith had taken over the cooking and served the meals. George and Mary Martin were the youngest couple, and Dick doubted whether either of them was past 21. The others were all nearer 30. They spent their time side by side, gazing over the sea, perfectly happy in each other's company. Gerald Brown and Peter Yarborough were constantly fishing from the collapsible boat while their wives played cards. One night they were awakened by brilliant flashes of light. Running to the beach, they watched in amazement. They appeared like big guns firing just above the surface of the water a few miles away. While they watched, they gradually faded out. It was like a terrific electric storm, and the little party drew close together for comfort. When the lights faded out entirely, Morquil told them to get some sleep. They would have to move equipment aboard a new ship the following day. With the first streak of dawn, Dick was back at the edge of the beach, straining his eyes into the gloom, but it was almost an hour before any object was visible. After breakfast the ship was much plainer. They could see a rounded hull, like the top of a huge submarine above the water. One of the women remarked that she would stay on the island before she'd enter an undersea ship. The trip on the Primrose was bad enough, but it wasn't below the surface. Morquil called them within the canvas shelter as if to make a speech. He held a small ball in one hand, and while they waited for instructions, it landed in their midst. A cloud of yellow vapour burst from the object, and everyone in the party slowly sank to the ground. Morquil joined the others in unconscious stupor, a victim of his own gas. End of chapter 2.